first point is I want you to see what the author's doing. We can see how the author is making meaning here, basically his handiwork. We can see how he's doing this. And I guess I kind of want to juxtapose the literary nature here. And again, it's so clear when you see this chiasm because we see the intelligent design, we see the structure, we see the outline, and we're going to see where his point is. What I want to do is to contrast this with another view of what the author's doing, as if he's just recording this. And there's no intelligent design other than to tell you that the flood story happened.
Yeah.
And we can just see that's not how the author is operating here. Is he telling you what happened? Yes.
Yeah.
But he's doing it in a very literary way with intelligent design.
Yeah.
That the point is not really that it happened, although that's obviously a consequence of it. We're not saying it didn't happen. We're saying it did happen.
Yeah. Welcome to this episode of Open Scripture, where we seek to sharpen the way the church reads her foundational texts. My name is Nick Nail, and with me is Dr. Tracy McKenzie. And this episode, we are jumping into the flood narrative. So the flood of Noah, very popular story. Even people who don't really know about the Bible, don't know about Christianity, they know about the flood. Mm-hmm. They've heard of Noah and Noah's Ark, and we're going to kind of walk through that story and what that means for us. But before we get there, we're going to start doing a new segment where we'll read some of the questions that we're receiving from our Patreon supporters and just take a quick moment to answer them as they've watched these various episodes. More questions come up, and we're going to have another full-length Q&A episode, but we can also take some of these short questions and spend some time on them.
Yeah, it's really our Patreon supporters that allow us to kind of be here today and have given us kind of the margin to have, excellent recording and excellent lighting, excellent sound. And so you might go onto Patreon, consider those tiered options. There's more benefits also for the Patreon supporters, but we wanted to start this segment where we take these questions that our Patreon supporters are sending us, and we deal with them right away.
Yeah. All right. So question number 1 is from a Patreon supporter named Dennis, and he asked the question regarding Satan and the serpent. So when Satan received the judgment because he caused Adam and Eve to sin, was that the fall of Satan? Was that the moment of Satan's fall? Or was Satan kicked out of heaven or whatever he was before? Or was this the moment of the fall of Satan?
Yeah, great question. And one that is, again, kind of challenging to answer. And to answer it, we really have to think about probably several places in the entire Bible that would help us kind of triangulate an answer. One thing that also might be helpful is to remember, the author, of course, of Genesis 1 is, much later in the sort of chronology of the world, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, the earliest it would be Moses, again, in around 1400 BC, right? And again, so Moses is way over here, after Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Israel, the Exodus, and now he's getting ready, as the traditional author of the Pentateuch, getting ready to cross into the Promised Land, still putting his final touches on the Pentateuch. And of course, Deuteronomy 34 and Moses' death account was even later, so remember the author is not right there, at creation. So I think this is the author's way. Again, I'm assuming these stories were passed down orally from, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and these generations of the Israelites. The Lord could have told Moses, in the tent of meeting, but I think a lot of these stories were passed down. And this is Moses's way of giving us a good description of Satan, and he does it in the form of a serpent. Mm-hmm. And also based on what he knew to have happened.
Yeah.
And I would say he's not answering the exact question that Dennis is asking. So if we go to Ezekiel, we could get another story of when, kind of Satan fell from heaven, and the author just doesn't give us the whole timeline. So I would probably say that this is not the exact fall of serpent. I'm just using these various scriptures to answer this. So it's not the exact description of the fall. And the Lord allowed, again, kind of the serpent or Satan to have some free reign here to tempt Adam and Eve, just like he allowed the serpent or Satan to have free reign to tempt Jesus. And again, the Lord knew exactly what was going to happen, and he had a plan. The seed of the woman was plan A from the beginning.
Yeah.
And
that's even explained in Revelation about the dragon
that's right.
tempting the woman and
that's
stuff
right.
as a
that's
later
right.
thing. So.
That's right. One just final moment on that, or thing on that, and that is, the Lord will be as glorified in his justice and judgment as he will be glorified in his mercy and love. We often don't think of him really being glorified in judgment or justice, but he is. That's maybe another topic for another episode. Yeah. But Dennis, thanks a lot for that question, and I don't know if I really answered it, but we gave it a shot.
But that was the moment where we see judgment was given to the serpent in that time.
Yeah, he definitely was. That's right.
And he's not a good guy in the story.
No, and he's not a good being at all. And we know that he comes to steal, kill, and destroy.
Yeah.
And he's very, very good at it, very wily.
And we see the effects of this into where we end up here with the flood and God wiping out all of humanity. And so as we jump into these next few chapters, the flood narrative is quite a few chapters long. So our normal flow is we've kind of gone verse by verse and dissecting each section slowly. But since this is a larger section, probably doesn't make sense to go verse by verse and read everything. So we should probably just take things in bigger chunks, and we'll read things that are important. But we'll skip over some of the minor details, and you can always pause and read along. But as we are a live commentary, we're just commenting on the sections. Kind of, if you were to preach this, you're not going to preach every single verse of the flood story. You're gonna go based on different sections one at a time, and you're gonna skip over some things, and so it's just kind of knowing what's important, what's not.
Yeah, I mean, I think we see here in Genesis 6 through 9 a very, very clear pattern. Right, it's going to be so clear and so obvious that this is kind of intelligently designed, and we're basically taking, for the most part, all of that pattern, because all of that pattern is really communicating a single or maybe a couple points. There's a single point in the middle of the pattern, and then there's a couple later points that we're going to hit on where the author creates prominent. In other words, he puts the spotlight on what he wants to nuance. And so, like Nick said, there would be no sense in preaching, Genesis, 6, 18 through 21. And focusing on these maybe 3 verses. I don't even know what is in 18 through 21, but basically focusing on these 3 verses. Actually, 18 might
That's
not be
covenant. We might need that one.
18 might be not bad, but 19, 20, 21. You wouldn't want to preach necessarily those 3 verses, right? You want to preach the whole pattern, and that's what we're going to try to go over. But it's going to be a little different than our previous episodes. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we just got out of the genealogy, and then we're left with Noah. And the one difference with Noah is he found favor from the Lord.
Yeah. So we might recall that the genealogies gave these particular men of the name, men of renown, and each of those genealogies said they had other sons and daughters, and he died. And if you look over at 929, we pointed this out last time. 929 says this about Noah.
Noah's life lasted 950 years, then he died.
All right. So, again, the flood story is spliced into this genealogy. So you might remember, too, what the genealogy said about Noah, right? And again, this is in, where's this at? 5:28 and 29. Lamech lived so many years, and he birthed a son. And he called the name of his son, saying, Noah, saying, "This one will bring us relief from our work and from the toil of our hands, from the ground which the Lord cursed it." So again, here's this Noah. How is he going to bring relief from the curse? And so we're gonna answer that today. And we're going to look at the pattern. This is the first thing we're going to do. We're going to look at the pattern. We're going to draw a couple implications from the pattern. Then we're going to look at an analogy between Noah and Adam, or again, the flood and creation. And then we're going to look at an analogy between Noah and Moses, or the ark and the tabernacle. So those are kind of the three things we're going to try to do in this episode. And basically, we're going to try to span 6 through 9. So, Nick, maybe start off. Let's read verse 9, and we'll make a few comments. We'll probably take a couple verses here, verse by verse, and then we'll, again, jump into the larger pattern, and we'll show it.
All right, so 6, verse 9. These are the family records of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, blameless among his contemporaries. Noah walked with God.
All right, so several comments here we can say. First of all, these are the genealogy, or these are the birth records of Noah. I think yours said family records.
Family records.
All right, so this is this word. This is called the Toledot formula. We saw this in Genesis 2:4. I think we saw it in Genesis 5:1. We see it here. We're going to see it at the beginning of Abraham's father, Terach. We're going to see it in Abraham. We're going to see this several times here. And this basically divides up the book of Genesis, if you will, into these, so we're obviously starting, a new subunit.
Right
here with this. So we see that. We also see Noah was a righteous man, blameless in his generation. So we can already see, again, the contrast between basically the increase of wickedness that we saw in 6:1 through 4, and even 5, 6, 7, 8, where every formation of the thoughts of their heart was only evil all the time, right? So Noah here is an exception. And that the corruption of all flesh is going to come about here in the next couple of verses. So we see here Noah was an exceptional person, and is said to be. And then the last little comment here on verse 9 is Noah walked with God.
Yeah.
Right? Really, it's with God, Noah walked. So there's an emphasis on the fact that it's with God he walked.
Yeah.
And again, we know Enoch, Noah's great-great-great-grandpa, also walked with God, right? And remember, also, guess who else is going to walk with God? Well, Noah's great-great-great-great-great-great-grandson, Abraham, is going to be told to walk with God. So again, puts Noah in a very, special group of individuals here.
Definitely.
That he gets this. All right.
Well, so then verse 10, Noah fathered 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
Okay. Again, we already know this, right? The author already told us this back, in chapter 5 here. I guess the end of chapter 5, we already find out that he fathered these 3 sons. And again, this just tells us here that these 3 sons are going to be very important to the rest of the story, both for ill and for good. Right. So this is going to be super important when we find out who the grandson of Shem is, the great-great-great-great-great-grandson.
Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight, and the earth was filled with wickedness.
All right. So again, this is kind of interesting here. The earth is basically corrupt, and we can kind of ask the question, wow, here is the result of Adam and Eve's disobedience,
Mm-hmm.
Cain's murder, Lamech's, offspring,
Right.
and to an extent, all of the product of the sons of God, whom we said were basically the sons of Adam, the sons of Seth, um, and the daughters of men. So again, everybody,
Yeah.
right? And so now this is a new word here, this word corrupt.
Okay.
All the earth is corrupt. And also the earth was full of violence. So
Yours says violence.
what's
My
your saying?
CSB says filled with wickedness.
Filled with wickedness. This is, I'm sure wickedness is fine there. That's at the end of verse 11.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting, though. Violence, this is really the word for violence.
ESV has violence.
Wickedness, there are 2 or 3 other words that are typically reserved for wickedness, but I don't have a problem with wickedness. I do think violence kind of shows the product of what Cain did to Abel and Lamech did to the individual or 2 individuals in the poetry. Now look at verse 12 and notice what the Lord says. Go ahead.
God saw how corrupt the earth was.
So there's that word corruption. So God now sees the corruption. Remember in Genesis 1, he saw that it was good, saw that it was good, saw that it was good. Genesis 2, he sees that it's not good for man to be alone.
Right.
Genesis 3, the woman sees. Genesis 4, Cain, or Lamech, they are caught up in this seeing, the wrong thing, if you will, or focusing on the wrong thing. And here God now sees that the earth is corrupt.
For every creature had corrupted its way on the earth.
All right,
that's interesting.
There's the word corrupt again.
But every creature, not just man? Is that what we're assuming?
It says all flesh is really what it says.
Okay.
All flesh.
All flesh. So then we're still talking about humanity.
I think we're probably talking about humanity, although the beasts are going to get in on this corruption as well.
Yeah.
It basically says all flesh. So I think that, is pretty general. It could also imply, the beasts as well. But whatever it is, all flesh had corrupted his way upon the land. And I think probably we see here, Moses saying, okay, it is mankind's fault that everything is corrupt.
Sure.
And the whole earth had inherited this corruption. And I suppose this might be a decent place to pause for a moment and just say, hey, even as Christians, we still are reaping the corruption, because creation has not yet been redeemed, right? I mean, this is what we're waiting on.
Yeah.
And it won't be redeemed until all of the sons of God, using Paul's language in Romans 8, the sons and daughters of God have been revealed. So just because we're Christians doesn't mean that we don't experience this corruption of the earth. Of course, the Spirit of God gives us victory over this, but we are still experiencing it, very much experiencing what Adam and Eve plunged us into.
So then here's the result in verse 13. Then God said to Noah, I have decided to put an end to every creature, for the earth is filled with wickedness because of them. Therefore, I am going to destroy them along with the earth.
All right, so this is kind of interesting because, again, in the Hebrew, it's the same exact words that he just used in the above verses, right? So God said to Noah, the end of all flesh has come before me because the earth is full of violence. So he's using the exact same terminology. Did the CSB use wickedness there?
He used wickedness again.
Yeah, and that's fine. I'm glad they keep it consistent.
Yeah.
The earth is full of violence from before them. So then he says, I think it used a different word here, behold, I am corrupting them.
Oh, yeah, it says, I'm going to destroy them.
Yeah. So he basically is using the same terminology that came out of 11 and 12 to say, okay, they are corrupt, and I'm going to corrupt them. The whole earth is corrupt, and I'm going to corrupt them with the earth. So he's basically, in a sense, using what they have done, and he's going to finish it off, right? He's going to corrupt, if you will, the earth. And, I don't want to belabor these details. All of these little details, again, show that the author is, again, using this terminology very purposefully and, intentionally relating these things to each other.
Yeah.
Now, in the rest of the flood story, really all the way to 929, we have this crazy chiasm.
What's a chiasm?
And a chiasm is just a literary device where you have, let's say, an entry at the beginning, and that entry is opposite of the same entry that's going to be down here at the end. So you have, let's just say A. We'll just say the author says something A, and then down here at the end, he mentions A prime, the opposite of it. I'll give you an example here in a second. Then he goes to B, and then at the end of his story, he goes B prime, C prime. So he gives the opposites. Let me just take you to something here I have in my book, and this is not really original with me. Gordon Wenham is the one who really lays this out. So let's just, I'll just show you one here. I'll show you two real quick. Noah's genealogy, right, begins this whole episode in verse 9, which we just read. Now, Noah's genealogy ends it in 929, which we just read.
Yeah.
Right? So there's your A and the opposite of A, or A prime, right? Genealogy begins, genealogy ends. Then you have Noah's sons, which we also just read, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And this again would be what? Basically in that same verse. In the next verse, verse 10. And this is the opposite at the end of the genealogy. Are you there? Genesis 9 should be about 9:28.
You want me to read that?
Yeah, read 9:28.
Now Noah lived 350 years after the flood.
All right, how about 9:27? Nope. We have to back it up a little bit more, where we see you could do 9:18, I guess.
Noah's sons who came out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
All right, so we have the three sons there. We have this corruption of the earth, and that was some of the verses we just read. And then the Lord at the end of the flood says, I'm never again corrupting the earth. So that's the opposite. We have covenant in 6:18, and then in chapter 9 we have the covenant explained, and then we have the flood in the middle.
Yeah.
Right. So there's one example of a chiasm.
I just looked up a definition of chiasm just so that we can
All
help
right,
our
good.
audience out. Literary definition of chiasm: a sequence of elements of a sentence or verse or paragraph or chapter or even a book, which are then repeated and developed, but in reverse order.
There we go.
It is sometimes called introverted parallelism.
Okay. All right. So
Just
chiasm,
a literary device.
all right, chiasm, which just comes from the Greek number, and then parallel. What was it? Reverse parallelism.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. So again, you've got this list of things that are then said in reverse. So it'd be like A, B, C, D, D, C, B, A.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And I just gave you one general one. And again, these are exact words, right, that are repeated. In other words, the reason why we focus on that word corruption at the beginning is that's also repeated at the end.
Yeah.
Now, let me give you another one just real quickly. And then as we talk through the flood, I found a bunch more of these in the flood narrative. And again, I think we're going to be able to put this on the screen. So, it will become very evident. But they go into the ark. And I don't have all these verses here in my book, but basically they go into the ark, and that's the reverse is that at the end is they exit the ark, right? And it's very clear they're going into the ark, they're coming out of the ark. And then it mentions 7 days. Yeah. The reverse of that is at the end of the story, there's 7 days. Then at the beginning of the story, there's a second 7 days. Opposite of that, there is a second 7 days. Then there's 40 days. Opposite of that at the end of the story is 40 days. Then at the last point at the beginning would be 150 days. And then there's the middle verse, which is going to be what we focus on. And then there's 150 days. So again, It's entry 7, 7, 40, 150, 150, 40, 7, 7, exit.
Yeah.
So you kind of see that. And again, we're not just doing this to just to talk about the literary. It's cool. I think it shows great intelligent design.
Absolutely.
But the whole point of this is to get us to the middle of the chiasm. This is how the author creates prominence on the middle of the chiasm. And so that's what we're going to focus on.
The middle part is what he really wants to emphasize.
That's what
He's
really
telling the whole
wants
story,
to
but
emphasize.
really it's like this is the main thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So again, we told you at the beginning of the episode, we're not going to go verse by verse through all of this. We've already gone verse by verse through 4 or 5 verses. So what do you think, Nick? Do you want to give them the full chiasm, or just let them see that on the screen?
I think they can see that on the screen and make sense of it.
All
I mean,
right.
we can jump through, the next few verses of chapter 6. We just get the instruction of how big the ark is supposed to be.
All right.
And that kind of stuff. Bring in 2 of every creature and gather food for them. Noah did this, and he did everything that God commanded him. And then we're into chapter 7.
Okay. All right. Okay. So again, on the screen, you'll see the chiasm, and you'll see, the literary kind of cloth, if you will. Again, this kind of fabric that the author creates out of the literary terms and phrases that he uses. And we got 2 points from this. The first point is I want you to see what the author's doing. We can see how the author is making meaning here. We can see basically his handiwork. We can see how he's doing this. And I guess I kind of want to juxtapose the literary nature here. And again, it's so clear when you see this chiasm, because we see the intelligent design, we see the structure, we see the outline, and we're going to see where his point is, right? Which is going to be, well, I'm not going to say what it is yet because I don't want him to go there, right? What I want to do is to contrast this with another view of what the author's doing, as if he's just recording this. And there's no intelligent design other than to tell you that the flood story happened.
Yeah.
And we can just see that's not how the author is operating here. Is he telling you what happened? Yes.
Yeah.
But he's doing it in a very literary way with intelligent design.
Yeah.
And we can see that the point is not really that it happened, although that's obviously a consequence of it. We're not saying it didn't happen. We're saying it did happen.
Yeah.
By the way, quick tangent here. Of course, all of the old kind of creation stories from the ancient Near East have this flood story, which would kind of say, hey, yeah, I mean, it happened.
Yeah.
All of the cultures, have this flood story, or many of the cultures have this flood story.
So what do you make of the, scientists or geologists, or especially Christian scientists that want to go back and prove the flood happened? We found the location of the ark,
Right.
and we
Missouri,
can see
Missouri somewhere.
we can see the rock formations of how waters would have created this stuff.
Yeah.
What do we do with all that?
Well, I mean, I think, again, a good question. I think it's fine to do all of that. And I would say those are apologetic concerns, right? Those are concerns related to the historicity and the veracity. I'm assuming the historicity and the veracity.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm just assuming that from the outset, and I'm trying to get to the interpretation or the hermeneutical point.
Right.
So I don't mind, again, people looking for Mount Ararat or trying. I mean, I think it'd be wonderful. I mean, it's unlikely that we're going to find wood, from 5,000, 6,000, or however many years ago.
Right.
I don't think that's a realistic, really, pursuit. And
do you think that's a product of modernity and wanting empirical evidence, and we want to prove our belief system, and so that's like a hyper focus?
I think that's probably a focus. I think, again, it's because people have, scholars have called this story into doubt. that, of course, the natural desire of Christians is to want to prove it, which
Mm-hmm.
is great. No problem.
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful. But I think it's going to be, it's going to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think maybe there are other ways we could prove it. Like, again, all of these cultures having a flood story and some of these things. But whatever it is, it's separate from the hermeneutical pursuit that
Right.
where we're trying to understand, again, the literary structure and outline that the author gives us.
Mm-hmm.
So again, that's why we're going to jump right into 8:1. So I just gave you the middle verse of the whole chiasm that, again, hopefully you'll see on the screen here. You can see that it's the middle verse that the author highlights. Nick, you want to read the middle verse here?
So chapter 8, verse 1. So we just skipped chapter 7.
We'll come back to this, by the way, because when we talked about the narrative analogy between Noah and Adam and creation and the flood, we'll come back and we'll comment on a little bit of chapter 6 and 7 that we missed.
Chapter 8, verse 1. God remembered Noah, as well as all the wildlife and all the livestock that were with him in the ark.
All right. So let's see. Did I cut you off? I cut you off, didn't I? Go ahead.
God caused a wind to pass over the earth, and the water began to subside.
All right. Very good. So here we see this notion, God, remembered Noah. And of course, people are asking, well, did God forget? And I think the idea here, this is actually what happens. God remembers Abraham in the covenant, and he remembers at other times, the covenant. And basically, it's a calling to mind. He calls to mind the covenant that he had said just in chapter 6, verse 18, that he's making with with Noah. And then every living thing, all the beasts which were in the ark. And then interestingly enough, he causes a spirit. The word spirit and wind and breath are all the same word in Hebrew, this word ruach. So he causes this wind or spirit to pass over the earth.
That sounds familiar.
And the waters abate. What do you mean there? That sounds familiar.
Genesis 1, the Spirit hovered over the face of the watery depths.
All right, very good. Exactly. The there it is. You got the Spirit and you got water. Guess what else it happens?
Waters parted.
The waters parted. Exodus 15, right? Again, God causes a ruach, a wind, to pass, and the waters part.
That's the Red Sea.
That's the Red Sea, right? That's their deliverance, right? They passed through the water.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, the same thing happens in Joshua 4 with the Jordan, which is an obvious allusion or hyperlink back to the Exodus, and it even says so. It's explicit.
Can we talk about this in New Testament theology terms?
We could. You got something in mind?
Well, I mean, we have the passing of the waters into new life.
Yeah. Every
Every single time you go through the waters, there's new life on the other side of it, which is what we experience in baptism.
That's right. It's if you think about it, it's even in John 3, born again.
Yeah.
You got waters, you got the wind. Same thing in the in Greek. You've got this wind or spirit. Right. You even got Jesus's baptism.
Yeah.
Where you have a similar thing. You also have the same thing, by the way, in Ezekiel 36. You've got waters.
Yeah.
Right, that cleanse, and then you've got the spirit, this wind or spirit, which revives people from the dead. So this is a major theme. It always involves water. I quote unquote water.
Right.
Always involves the ruach or the pneuma, the word spirit or wind in Hebrew and Greek, and it's the bringing about of life. And here we see Noah and everybody who is with him in the ark make it through the waters, and they come out, and they basically have this new life, if you will, in what really ends up being a new creation. Now, we've got a lot more to discuss here on how Noah is going to reverse the curse. This idea of the covenant is just one sort of answer to this. We're going to address the covenant again because it's unpacked in Genesis 9, kind of after the flood story, still within this chiasm that we're talking about. But we're basically out of time here in this episode. We couldn't get to the entire concept of covenant there. But we're going to see how Noah reverses the curse through this covenant. We're also going to see how Noah's seed brings about the reversal of the curse, and we're even going to discuss exactly what is the reverse of the curse. So join us in our next episode where we show how the Scripture is for us and about us.